Immortal. Wale. Send your blessing, come down. Jaja, send your blessing, come down. Abrami boy, me many marabiadia. I just want food. Jaja, send your blessing, come down. Yeah, send your blessing, come down. Jaja, send your blessing, come down. Opportunity so but to quiet on London. Me, I just want food. Jaja, send your blessing, come down. Yeah, me, my brother jealousy. Me, go pony me casa. Me, my brother jealousy. Me, go pony me casa. And me, kwana me yana. What you eat? Send your blessing, come down. 1 2 what? Every day talking not. Woman, you miss a bump panate. Woman, you miss a bump panate. My am a day. Wale. Daddy, send your blessing, come down. 1 2 what? Every day talking not. Woman, you miss a bump panate. Woman, you miss a bump panate. My am a day. Wale. Daddy, send your blessing, come down.
This is 101.9 ZFM, 101.9 ZFM, and you're welcome to I Have a Story to Tell, and today is a special day indeed. You're probably wondering what I'm doing in this seat and where the host is, but he's right opposite me in the studio. Undeniably the living legend that he is, and I'm very privileged, his nephew, Edwin Kwekuando Baffour, to be hosting I Have a Story to Tell. And today is Uncle Fritz's birthday, the 11th of March, so I'm here to find out about him, you know, hear his perspective and give it another angle. You always hear him in the chair, and today we want to give it another perspective. So you're listening live to 101.9 ZFM, and feel free to contact us on WhatsApp line 054 321 019 and 030-395-6641. We're also on ZFMGH. That's our Twitter handle, Z Multimedia, and you can find us on www.zmultimedia.com. So we are in the studio today. This is Uncle Fritz's birthday, and again, I am very privileged to be interviewing this wonderful gentleman, really, really a living legend. Thank you very much for listening to us. We're in for a wonderful evening. Uncle Fritz, yes. How are you doing this day?
Fine. It's been a very hectic day. Calls from all over the world and everywhere. I didn't expect the deluge of calls, so, and I had a few things doing too. So,
I see.
Yeah, very exciting day.
Well, you're an international man, so I'm not surprised at that at all. I mean, they would come in from Nigeria, from the UK, the US, and all over the world, because you have left a footprint in your career, both in politics, entertainment, and the history, tourism. And so we really, really are privileged to be here wishing you a happy birthday. And we thank God Almighty for your life.
Thank you very much.
So we're going to go into the show. And
Right.
Just a little bit background about yourself.
Yeah, you want me to talk about myself? I was born in Accra. I was born I was born at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital, which is in the Gold Coast Hospital. My father was an engineer, Dr. R.P. Baffour of blessed memory, and my mother was Evelyn Akwele Baffour ne Kofi. My father's antecedents are from all over the place, and so is my mother. But I can say that my father was born in Elmina, and my mother was born in Accra. My mother was a midwife. As I said, my father was an engineer. I was born in Kolebu Teaching Hospital. I grew up for a while in my grandmother's house in Koligono, where I still live. Not a house, but I still live in Koligono.
KG.
Yeah, KG. And I went to school at Mrs. Sam's, which is behind the law courts, the new law courts. When we talk about the National Lotteries building, around there was Mrs. Sam's School, which was founded by Mrs. Edu Sam of blessed memory. It was a government bungalow, and she had a kindergarten, and a lot of the children of the educated elite at the time sent their children to that kindergarten in the early 50s.
Okay.
So I went to school with the likes of Jerry John Rawlings, Nana Kwenedo Ajman Rawlings. I went to school with the DeGraffs, whose father was DeGraff Hayford, whose father became the chief of air staff in Nkrumah's time. I went to school with quite a few people, Reggie Sawyer, their names are so many. And from there I went to Christ the King as one of the first pupils of Christ the King in 1957 when I attained the age of 5. And in 1960, my father was appointed the principal of the Kumasi College of Technology, so he moved to Kumasi and we moved along with him. And I went to Technology Primary School, which is a very famous primary school, very much still in existence. And I lived on the tech campus for quite a while, and I passed my common entrance and went to Prempeh College in 1963. But my dad had, in 1962, he was made the vice chancellor of the university when the university was elevated to that status. And so they started a secondary school for the children of the lecturers. So my dad thought it unfair that he'd sent his son to Prempeh College while he was trying to encourage the lecturers and the staff of the university to send their children to Technology Secondary School, University of Science and Technology Secondary School, which is now called TechSec.
Okay.
And so I was moved from Prempeh College, much to my disappointment, but I enjoyed my time at Tech Secondary School, where I finished my O-levels. So that's really the early stage of my life. I had a very fulfilling young days. I did a lot of things. I learned how to swim at the university swimming pool. I was very keen on general knowledge, so I led the Tech Secondary School team on 2 occasions. My elder brother, Gerald, led the school, and on 1 occasion before he left. And we were regional champions and got to the finals of the top school competition, which now the equivalent is, I think, the science and maths quiz. Wow. So, I had a lovely life, and My dad and my mom were very interested in our upbringing, and so they ensured that we read a lot, we studied a lot, and they imparted knowledge to us. You could approach them and talk to them and ask them questions and things like that. And Tech was an international community because at that time there were very few Ghanaian lecturers. So we had the academic staff came from all kinds of places, from the east of Europe, Bulgaria, we had Russians, we had Latvians, we had Poles and Hungarians, and then from the West, a lot of Americans, a lot of Brits, they were there. And so the Tech secondary school, the Tech primary school itself was an international school. Tech secondary school also had quite a few expats. So I grew up, a child of the world.
Wow, that's interesting. When you say swimming, I know that your father built the first Olympic-sized swimming pool on Tech campus. Is that where you were swimming?
Yes, that's where we were swimming. We had a Russian coach called Mr. Koshilyatsky. He taught us how to swim. And the funny thing was that because my dad was the vice chancellor in Kumasi and he had Fanti origins, Kumasi Cornerstones, which was a team that came out of Fanti Newtown and full of people from Elmina. They made him the patron.
I see.
And Koshilyatsky became their coach. So in the 60s, I think 62 or 63, Cornerstones won the FA Cup.
Wow.
They were a very good team. And I had, I think, 4 or 5 cousins playing. The Asma brothers, the Efson brothers, goalkeeper De Graaf, who kept for Black Stars and everything. And Dad also, later on, just before he left the university, brought in Jones Atikwefio, Walter Yanka, Willie Evans, and they all worked on the university campus but played for Kumasi Cornerstones.
Wow.
I'd like to tell you I'm not a Kumasi Cornerstones supporter. I'm a supporter of the great Accra Great Olympics. That's right. My team. They make me cry and they make me laugh.
I see. That's very interesting. So, I mean, it might be too early to ask you, but I mean, some of your most memorable childhood moments.
Yeah.
What comes to mind when you recall?
Well, the childhood moments. That was where I started getting interested in the arts, because Tech, was a very holistic community, and they had a drama troupe, and we had plays that we performed as in the primary school. So I remember being in the cast of the Pied Piper of Hamelin, and I can remember the Pied Piper was played by a guy called Thomas Appiah, and then a cousin of mine who's now a lawyer, Sam Yokain, played, and that was the first time I went on stage, and I loved it, and I've never left it really, the arts. And then Dad also spent a lot of time sitting with us by the radiogram, which was a magnificent little instrument that everybody had in their house where you could play records and listen to the radio. And anytime he had the time to spend with us, we listened to music. So,
wow. I mean, we probably discuss a little bit about him later, but
yeah,
he certainly was a science guy, but very artsy at the same time.
Yes, he was very much a Renaissance man. I mean, he did a lot of things. He was interested in everything, in history and all that. And unfortunately, the engineering side did not come to us. It escaped me. So I'm not very good at. But when it came to the arts, because he was a great singer, and he produced, while he was in Achimota, he produced a couple of operettas, the Pirates of Pram Pram, which was from the Pirates of Penzance, Gilbert and Sullivan, and all that kind of thing. And he was known for it. So that's what we picked up.
I see. He also acted. He acted in the first movie.
Yeah, the Boy Kumasinu.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's why you obviously
fascinated by that side of him.
I see.
And of the science. Yeah.
Interesting. That's lovely. I mean, personally, your journey has been an interesting one, very diverse, international. and then you find yourself now back in Ghana, and we're celebrating your birthday today. So we're probably going to go into a little music, and then we'll come back and discuss a little bit more. We've got lots of time to delve deep into your very interesting life. So you're listening to 101.9 ZFM, 101.9 ZFM, and you can reach us on WhatsApp 0544 321 019, 0544 321 019, or 030 395 6641. We're also on Twitter handles ZFMGH and Z Multimedia on YouTube and other social media handles. Also visit us on www.zmultimedia.com. You're listening to the celebration of the birthday of the great one and only Fritz Baffour.
You're tuned in to Z 101.9 FM, your lifestyle, leisure, and business radio. Z 101.9 FM.
It's your lifestyle, leisure, and business radio. Z 101.9 FM. Z 101.9 FM.
All right, and we are streaming live on YouTube. YouTube is ZFMGH and Z Multimedia. So look for us on YouTube and let's follow. We're having a wonderful birthday celebration, and Uncle Fritz is on the other side of the table today. It's his birthday. And that last song was Abankaba by the great Bob Cole.
Yeah.
I think you're trying to tell us how old you really are by these tunes.
But the reason why I selected Bob Cole, this particular song, is that Bob Cole was a very great musician and a comedian and all that. And he just happened to be related to me.
Wow.
He was my uncle. And I remember when I had my first real program on television, he actually performed in 1980, I think 1987.
Wow.
So, I remember him, great guy. Unfortunately, he died in penury. But I've selected two of his songs for this, amongst the other ones that I've selected.
Wow, beautiful music. These were the days.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that more Ghanaian artists actually get inspired by this legacy that we have.
That's right.
Everybody's running to the studio to make new music, but we're sitting on we should be standing on the shoulders of all these people.
That's true.
So that's a cue for all of you. And we're listening to 101.9 ZFM. You can also follow us on YouTube, Z Multimedia. We're on www.zmultimedia.com. And we'd like to hear your comments on the WhatsApp line 0544 321 019. And our line is also 030 395 6641. So, Uncle Fritz, you've been telling us about your early career. So let's get a little deeper. I mean, what got you into broadcasting?
Well, when I was in Form 3 secondary school, we came down from Kumasi, and I followed some friends to a nightclub. You know, I was in Form 3, so I deemed myself a senior. I at that time, my mother and father were not around, so that was why.
Laissez passer.
Yeah, so I was in this nightclub sitting down watching, you know, this was about 1965, and they just started Ghana television.
Okay.
And one of the producers, Martin Lowe, I think they were filming the live band there, and you know, he sort of heard me speak English, and he said, "Oh, what do you do?" And I said, "I'm a student in the secondary school." And he said, "Oh, I like the way you speak. Can you come and do a program on GTV?" And I jumped at it because at that time we were into films and things like that. So I thought this was a fast track to fame. And so I went and I did a program, and because we only had one channel, I got quite a few fans. Then as I told you, I went into when I was the captain of the school quiz team. We came down to Accra a lot to compete against other schools, and we made a name for ourselves. So that was how I got into you know, understanding the nuances of television. So at the back of my mind, I really wanted to do something like that. And when I went to England and I finished school, I worked for an advertising firm, and I made a beeline to the television side of it. So that's how I got into television. I've been associated with the television for 40 years.
Wow.
It's, not 40 years, actually 60
More
years.
than that, yeah.
Because we are talking about 1965. So, but I actually started doing my own programs in Liberia. I had a program called Just For You on Liberian television when I lived in Liberia in 1983 to 1984, and then I got another gig to work in Britain. So I went to work in Britain for Channel 4 TV, a couple of programs, and then I came back home. And then, you know, Bob's my uncle. That's what I've put on my shoulders, you know. Yeah.
Wow. Interesting. So you started your career in Liberia, my man.
I see. You know that, you know, when I was there, that was when I learned how to do television work.
Real proper, man.
I'm telling you.
I see. We have to get some rice on the fire for him.
I see, my man, I like the rye.
You light a rye with potato leaf stew. You're a bad man.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so that's Uncle Fritz giving us a little bit of his Liberia experience. And that's good to know that you started, you know, so early and back in the day. And I mean, it shows when we look at your career, the sort of things that you've done. You know, you've pioneered a lot in the music industry, I mean, in the entertainment industry.
Yeah.
But from your perspective, how has the Ghanaian entertainment industry changed since you started? Well,
I think that Ghana was the trailblazer for entertainment when I was growing up. We didn't get our television very early. Nigeria had its television in 1960 when they got their independence. I think it was a present from from Britain or something. They had television, and so we got our television in 1965. And I remember when Kwame Nkrumah inaugurated the television service, he said it was to entertain, educate, and also Inform.
Okay.
So it was, and they did very well. We had a great crop of producers and directors and presenters, and there were people who we emulated. We had fantastic news readers. We had John Hammond, and we had Kwame Amamu. We had the Owusu brothers and things like that. So, and the great Vida Kuranting Asante. And even Jacob Echeblante was a presenter, continuity presenter. So it was a very, very good crop of people, and they were to be emulated. They spoke impeccable English. The productions, and I can say that now, were first class. And a lot of the programs were pre-recorded, and they worked for 24 hours.
Wow.
Anytime I went to the studio, you would find people like David Labi, who was a radio presenter, but he had sometimes doubled as a television presenter. And all these guys would work 24 hours, It was great.
Did you ever run to the likes of Joe Latte?
Oh, Joe Latte was way, 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 way ahead of us. He had started in the 50s, with there were quite a few people. They'll all come to mind very, very soon. Yes.
Wow. Well, I believe you, because, if you look at GBC now, you can imagine in 1960 it was a world-class facility.
Yeah, and really it broadcast it was on long wave and medium wave and short wave, and we had the Voice of Africa, where Ghana had presenters and producers from all over Africa. We had a Swahili department, we had a French department, and there are quite a few people still around. I think we have Mr. Menz, who was a French scholar, a very good friend of mine called Idusu Baba, who was an MP. His mother was from Tanzania, so we call him Baba Tanzania, and she was with the Voice of Africa. And they had their relay station, I think, in Tema and all over the place there. So Ghana was the trailblazer, and we produced a lot of good programs. And then most of the big bands in West Africa, if they wanted to actually make it, they came to Accra. We had Victor Laya, we had Victor Waifo, we had the Heartbeats, who came down from Sierra Leone. We had a band that came from Gambia. We had the Black Santiagos, who came out of Benin. And
the great fella.
The fella Ransom Kuti.
Yeah.
At that time, it was fella Ransom Kuti and the Kula Lobitos.
Yeah.
But we'd seen him because when Ghana got its television, we had a lot of Nigerian programs being shown.
Okay.
So we had great presenters like Julie Coker, beautiful lady, spoke impeccable English, and there were, those programs came on, and we saw the Nigerian stars, we had Nigerians actually playing in bands in Ghana. Sammy Obot, if I'm right, if he was called Sammy, yeah. And it was a very interesting thing. Yeah.
Interesting. So now, if you look at what's happening in the industry now, what are your thoughts on our entertainment industry?
I think that we lagged behind a bit. We lost that verve. And I would blame, I think, some of the military insurrections, because we had a very vibrant nightlife. And when the curfews came into play, gradually, it died down.
Okay.
All right. And most of our musicians who couldn't play live, a lot of them went to Nigeria when that massive exodus of Ghanaians to Nigeria happened.
Okay.
So I think we lost that. They came back, and most of the nightclubs that played live music had been turned into churches and other means of enterprise.
Right.
So,
right. Interesting. So I think it's time for us to have another song of yours. What's the next song that you want us to delve in? We're playing your favorites today.
Yeah. One of my greatest friends, he died a year and a half, I think, ago, was the great George Daku. Nanampim Daku.
Yes.
Who became a chief in Akropong.
That's right.
We were very good friends. I used to visit him in Germany. He was living in Berlin. He introduced Burger High Life, and he came up with a tremendous hit called Akoti Brofo. And there's a story there. So after we've played it, I'll tell you the story.
Okay. So you're listening to 101.9 ZFM, and we are partying with Uncle Fritz. He's celebrating his birthday March 11th, and you can follow us on YouTube, ZFM on Twitter, ZFMGH on X, and also Z Multimedia. We are live streaming on YouTube. So join us, and we're having lots of fun in the studio here. And as you can tell from our conversation, he's well versed in where he's passed, and he's been indispensable to Ghana's entertainment industry. And we're going to get into what he's also done for politics a little later in the show. So you are listening to 101.9 Z.
You're tuned in to Z 101.9 FM, your lifestyle, leisure, and business radio.
All right, and you're listening to I Have a Story to Tell on 101.9 ZFM. And I think we just jumped the gun there. We're supposed to play Akoti Brofo, but we played another one by Pat Thomas. And
Yeah.
I know you have a story about this one too.
Yeah. Pat Thomas is somebody I've known for many years. A very good friend of mine.
Legend.
And a legend. I mean, more than a legend.
Beautiful music.
Yeah, excellent. And he went to Canada. And this song he had the help of a relative of mine called Dr. Olsen, Thaddeus Olsen.
Thaddeus Olsen,
yeah, who's
Java Museum.
Yeah, Java Museum, and he's into music. He went to St. Augustine Secondary School, so he was very much into the Famous Flames, which was the school band of Augustine's, and the drummer of the Famous Flames happened to be a brother of mine, Francis Ignatius, Baffour.
That's right.
So there's a story there, and I love this music because it's very well written, very well produced, and the great people were behind it. So
It's classic.
Yeah, it's a classic.
I mean, these are songs that you hear in other African countries, and they don't understand the tree that he's singing, but it gets people on the dance floor
straight away. Yes,
and that's a mark
really fascinating
of excellence.
And that shows you the kind of attraction Ghanaian music had. Because we had very, very great musicians. I mean, you know about E.T. Mensah, you know about the Black Beats, you know about the Ramblers, and they were all people I actually met and I knew very well.
King Bruce.
Kim Bruce was a distant relation of Jamestown. E.T. Mensah also, and Jerry Hansen lived in Colligon, just down the road from us.
Yeah.
And we just admired him, so we'd walk over there and sit with him, and he would tell us the stories. And all these people were real professionals.
Yeah.
Kim Bruce was permanent secretary at the Ministry of Defense.
Wow.
E.T. Mensah was the chief pharmacist of Ghana, or dispenser.
Wow.
Yeah, and Jerry Hansen himself was an optical engineer. I mean, he was an expert on lenses and things.
Wow.
He was, and they not only showed that they were musicians, but they were professionals, and they reached the heights that any professional would have attained. So they were great role models for all of us.
There's another one, Gadaliel Akwe.
Yeah.
A.K.A. Ganaba.
Yeah, Gamaliel Akwe. Yes, Gamaliel Warren Akwe.
That's right.
And he called himself Guy Warren. He was named after Gamaliel Warren, who was an American president. I think he was born around the time Gamaliel Warren was the president of the United States.
Okay.
But later on, he called himself Kofi Ganaba, and that's a story to tell because, he comes from the Akwe family. He was Warren Akwe.
Yeah, right in Colligono.
Yeah, Colligono, yeah.
KG again.
KG, great place. Great place.
All right. Wonderful, wonderful. So we are speaking to the one and only Fritz Baffour, and if you're joining us now and you don't know who Fritz Baffour is, and he's had a very illustrious career in the entertainment industry. He's served Ghana in politics. He's also a historian and a media practitioner. And also has had a lot of cultural influence on the entertainment industry in Ghana, and we are celebrating his life today on March 11th, live on Z101.9 FM. You can follow us on YouTube. We're streaming live on Z Multimedia on YouTube, and we also on X, ZFMGH. You can send us a WhatsApp on 055 054 432 1019. 055 432. I'll take that again. 0544 321 019. So, Fritz, we just discussed the great Pat Thomas, and you've been around other bands before because you had a stint in London.
Yeah.
And you were around some of the big names. Give us a little bit of experience there.
Well, when I went to work for British television, the programs I worked on were musical programs. We had one which was called Razzmatazz, and I was meant to have co-hosted a program with the guy who was hosting Razzmatazz. And so I met quite a few musicians. I met Hugh Cornwell of the Stranglers. I met Hugh Masekela, who was a friend of my late elder brother, R.P. Baffour Jr. I met great musicians and great artists in Britain, and I got to Georgie Fame, and I met Osibisa were the good friends of my brother, so I met them. I met Eric Burden of the Animals, the House of the Rising Sun. Great musicians all throughout. So for me, it was, and my brother, my late elder brother, we called him Molly B, but his name is R.P. Baffour Jr.
Yeah.
And he was very much in the music scene, walking around the music scene with the Brits in those days. He had friends, the Rolling Stones were his friends. He knew the Beatles. He knew Hugh Grant. He knew the Grant of the Equals and all that. Those were the heady days of pop in the 60s.
Yeah.
So it was very easy for me to walk into Britain, and if I introduced myself and I said I'm Molly B's brother,
Molly B.
They'll get very, very excited about it.
Right. And he was also very close with Ebo Taylor and Fela.
Yeah, Molly B grew up in Second D because my dad spent some time there before he came to Accra. He was a railway engineer, and Molly B grew up with my dad there. And people like Ebo Taylor, Papa Yankson, and all those guys were his friends. And at that time, the Railways had a first-class band, and Ebo Taylor, I think, played in the Railways band, because all the big institutions of government had bands.
Right.
So, we had the Black Star Band, we had the Railways Band, and so we had the Sweet Beans, who were from Cocoa Board and all that. Apart from the private bands, Uhuru, which is owned by the Datsons, we had the Modernaires and the Remendinaires, and these guys were great. And most of the good musicians who came out of that, I mean, I'm not too well versed in that history, but I met these people.
Right.
People like Kwame Nkrumah was a fantastic guitarist. I met McTonto when we lived on the Tech campus, because he used to come and play. Because the Tech campus, they had good musical instruments. Okay. And there was a professor there called Dimitri Fotiadis, who was Greek-American. And he played the trumpet, and McTonto used to come around. So it was something that was very, very interesting.
Wow, interesting. I mean, I can see music has played a very big part in shaping your character.
Very, very much so. In fact, when songs are played, I usually equate them to what I was doing at the time when those songs came out.
Yeah,
yes.
Music is very, very, very.
Yes, and Konimo was a lab technician at Tech at the time. He was playing his traditional music and everything, and he's written in his book about the role my dad played in his life and in pushing his professional vocation forward. Yeah.
Wow. So now that we are looking at our education curriculum,
yeah.
What do you have to say about the fact that music doesn't even feature?
Yeah, it's wrong. Music and we shouldn't bump music and say culture. I mean, the history is very important. I don't think we are doing much about the history of this country. The kids don't know our history. I think because we've politicized the history, and so we are afraid to put it out. But it's about time the Historical Society and historians in academia got together and started writing good history books, because with advanced technology, imaging and things like that, we're getting to understand more about who we are and what we are. I have a very good friend who was on my program. I have a story to tell, Professor Gavois, who's an archaeologist, and his stories are unbelievable.
He's at Legon, right?
Yes, at Legon. He's done a lot of work. Yeah. He's done a lot of excavations all over. And he could tell you things that would surprise you about how great this country was way back. I thought that our history went back about 2000, but he said it goes back 10,000 and beyond. And with the imaging and the new information coming in about what the climate was, what the forest and the topography was, and things like that, we can tell our story, and a better story at that, too. And then our relationship with the other continents and things like that.
I know Sheikh Anta Diop, the Senegalese radiologist, he did some very big work on
That's right. And his books are absolutely amazing. Because it was about, Africa, the civilization of Africa. There was a guy called Hugh Trevorupa, who was a Regius Professor of History in one of the major universities in Britain, who said there was no history coming out of Africa, which was a lie and a fallacy. And I'm surprised that people still look at him as a historian. But this shows that we need to do something about it. When I was in secondary school, we did music, and we had music masters who were very much part of the staff. And it was good for us. Because music is very much related to mathematics and philosophy. And we learned not only about the classical composers like Haydn and Mozart and Strauss and all that, but we learned about Amour, the musicians of the time, all those people.
Interesting. All right, so I think we are going to go in for the next song, and we'll do your song with George Dako.
Yes, so that I can talk about him.
Ako Tibrofo.
Z 101.9 FM. 101.9 FM.
Oh, man. We were boogieing in the studio. You're listening to I Have a Story to Tell, and today we are interviewing Fritz Baffour. It's his birthday, 11th of March. You're listening to 101.9 ZFM, and you can follow us on X, ZFMGH, and also live streaming on Z Multimedia on YouTube. We're listening to the wonderful high life bugger music of the great George Daku, Aku Tibrofu. I mean, we were speaking in the studio about why we stand on such great shoulders and we're making such mediocre music today. What do you think is going on?
Well, I think that there's a certain element of laziness. And I think because technology has come in, people do not learn to play the instruments as well as they used to play. In those days when you had analog and all that,
right.
you know, you had to learn how to play the instruments, and you learned the nuances of the instrument and all that. But this song is very, very important to me because it's been a landmark musical influence for me. I was in Liberia, and I was listening. I heard this song. This was in, I think, 82 or something. Yeah. And I just thought, fantastic. And they told me it's a Ghanaian. And I listened to it and I realized what it was. But in 1985, and I'd like to say that I came back home in 1985, really for good. And I'd been away for a while. So let's say 40 years ago, I arrived on the 5th of March. And I had a friend called Nia Dawu, who was a marketing manager of International Tobacco Ghana, and they were sponsoring a trip to Ghana by George Daku and his band, who were called the Phantom F, and they were to perform at the Accra, the banquet hall.
Okay.
All right, and it was big, you know, and I managed to, Dawu said, oh, look, I want you to be one of the MCs for the show. So he asked me to meet him at the gate, and the price of the ticket had never been that high in Ghana. It was premium, and everybody wanted to go. And so I was there, I got there, and the guy at the gate said, who are you? I said, oh, my name is Fritz Baffour. I'm supposed to be one of the MCs. He said, you can't do it. I said, oh, come on. I mean, I've been asked to come. So he said, you just stand aside and wait for Mr. Dawu to come. And Mr. Dawu came and said, oh, this is Fritz Baffour, and he's he's come from England. He's a good MC. And they said, well, we've got an MC already. That was the great Mike Egan.
Okay.
One of my heroes in this world. And so, you know, then the guy said, your name is Fritz Baffour? I said, yes. He said, are you related to Dominic Baffour? I said, that's my younger brother. He said, I know you. All right, you come in, but let's go and see Mike. And if Mike is happy with you co-hosting the program with him, then we will we'll let you do it. So Mike said, hey, this is my younger brother. So, you know, yes, I'll need him because I can't go through the whole repertoire, you know. I need a loud voice. Right. So the band started playing. Mike introduced the band. There was a big crowd there of the you know, the elite, you know, sitting down there. They paid good money to watch this program. They played a couple of tunes, and because of the powerful instruments they brought down from Germany, it blew the lights.
Oh, wow.
So the people were sitting in darkness, and that's when I stepped in. And with my loud voice, the acoustics were good, so I started telling stories, jokes, and things like that. So when they finally restored the power, people were a little disappointed. They wanted me to continue with the stories, but we went on, and George and I hit it off. He just liked he was laughing at my jokes at the back of the backstage. So we became friends, and I must say that period of 1985 when I'd come to Ghana and I was trying to find myself, George was very, very good. He'd come and pick me up from the house in Colligona. We'll go up the mountains, Akropong, where he lived. He took me around. I had a wonderful time with him. But there's a sideline. Apparently, in the audience was my wife. At the time, she wasn't married to me at that time. She didn't know me. And she said, that is the man I think I'm going to marry.
Wow.
So when it eventually happened and she told me that, she saw me at the show and said, this is the man I'm going to marry. So it's indelibly linked to George Daku.
Yeah, no doubt.
And later on, when I had my program, Sincerely Yours, I had the opportunity of going to Germany, and I filmed in Berlin, and I interviewed George and a lot of musicians, the Berger musicians from Hamburg and from Berlin. And George remained my very, very, very close friend till he passed away.
Wow.
So he's somebody who was missed, but he was a consummate guitarist. He had a beautiful knowledge of music, and he had a good group of people around him. It was just Bob Fishen, who was a keyboardist par excellence. He had wonderful drummers. And they had people like Son Taima and all those guys around him. So it was so that's why I wanted to play this song. And then when I did Sincerely Yours, when I did the F&F show with Tommy Annan Fossey, which was the first major show I did in Ghana.
Okay.
George Daku, I couldn't even afford him, but he came and did perform for free and took part in the program.
Wow.
So he has not been married yet, unfortunately, but I miss him a great deal, and may his soul rest in peace.
Great guy. And you mentioned Sincerely Yours because people who were born after the 90s won't know that you had one of the most iconic shows on TV. Lifestyle show that delved into. Tell us a bit more about Sincerely Yours and how it started.
Well, Sincerely Yours, I think, was a follow-up from my days with Tommy Annan Fossey on Fritz and Friends. No, Fritz and Friends was another one. F&F show with Tommy Annan Fossey. We did only 7 programs.
Wow.
But people talk about it now. People who
only 7 programs.
Only 7 programs. But we just
classic.
We broke the mold. Our comedy was something extraordinary, and Jerry John Rawlings, who was the head of state at the time, people thought he didn't like it because we took the Mickey out of the government sometimes, but he loved it. And in actual fact, when broadcasting got burned, the only copy of F&F that we could get was from him.
Wow.
So it just showed you. And he sort of said to his to one of his government ministers that, hey, why don't we get Fritz Baffour to do something? All right. And so they approached me, and then we started talking. I said, I've got an idea of a program called Sincerely Yours, which is a human interest program, which will go around and ask questions and talk to people and everything. But the concept then ballooned.
Yeah.
All right. So it wasn't only about Ghana. It was also about, I had the opportunity of traveling.
Yeah.
And if anybody thought that I was being sponsored by the government at the time, no. I had to do it on my own.
Yeah.
But one thing I'll say is that what got me to change the slant of Sincerely Yours was the fact that I realized that my antecedents were from all over Ghana. I presumed that my dad was a Fanti. Then I realized it wasn't so. But then I should have known, because when I was growing up, people used to come from the north in their fugus and their batakaris and would come and stay. In Accra, in the old man's house, in the guest room and everything. And Dad would say, this is your uncle and all that. But when I finally was old enough to ask the questions, I realized that my dad's father was half Tagumba. And I started delving into why it was so, and I found out that there was a historical narrative about it and everything. So I realized that I had cousins in Tamale and in Yendi and in Nantong, you know, and so it piqued my interest. So I decided that I would look at that. Then I realized that we also had antecedents in Techiman. And how did that happen? Because one of the royal stools of Techiman is actually in the stool house, in our family house in Elmina. How did that happen? And so I had to go to Techiman and find out. Then I realized that my father's mother, who was named after, her name was Mami Fritz. That's why I'm called Fritz. I thought she was a fancy lady. She didn't speak a word of Ga. And her name was Frederica Okan. So I went and delved into it and found out that she had a very strong Ga lineage, dating back maybe some 60, 70 years or 100 years back. And
from the Gbese quarter.
From the Gbese quarter, she was a direct descendant of Chief Okanja. And so that also, got me interested in, and I started going and searching for credible reports that would validate what I thought was my family lines. And then with my mother too, I realized that my mother's has a very strong lineage from Winneba, and then I found out that there was a lineage from Bono, Sampa, that area. How did it happen? Because my mother ostensibly speaks Ga and very poor Chi of Fante. And when you get those things, and then you realize that even Mami Fritzwa had a grandfather who was, a great-grandfather who was part Dutch. How did it happen and all that kind of thing. Then you realize that Ghana is a very interesting place. And fortunately for me, within the last 2 decades, a late uncle of mine, David Awatri, who was a very senior civil servant, and my dad's first cousin, wrote a book called the Dehia Chronicles, where he chronicled all the tapestry and the interconnections with the families all over the coast, and it even went all the way to the north. And I saw the validation of the antecedents and my lineage and my ancestry and everything.
Wow.
So, coupled with the fact that my dad also talked to me a lot about who we were and what we were and how important Ghana was, because they believed in Ghana. They had a spiritual belief that Ghana was a very, very special place, and that is what I've also absorbed and taken into place.
We were real patriots.
Yeah.
I mean, this man we speak about, Dr. R.P. Baffour, he was your father, but he was a legend of his own, in his own right. This was the first mechanical engineer in sub-Saharan Africa.
Yeah, graduate, yeah.
So he was a pioneer in your own home. Can you tell us a little bit more about some of the greatness that he achieved?
Yeah, he was... The great thing about him was that he was very humble, very knowledgeable.
Yeah.
He could, as I said, he was a Renaissance man, so he could talk history, the arts, and everything. But as an engineer, he was a legend because he became the chief engineer, mechanical engineer of Greater Accra, of the Accra City Council. He was there. And here, he was sitting in a bus and he hear a sound and say, "There's something wrong with the bus." And I hear he used to wear white, but he could go under the bus and repair if there was a problem and everything. So he had that...
hands-on.
Yeah, he also had that mystique about him, that he knew his stuff and everything.
Right.
And he was a good friend of Kwame Nkrumah, dating back to the 30s when they were in Achimota. And then I hear Nkrumah came and spent some time in Elmina at Emisano, and the family sort of clicked because Dr. Kwame Nkrumah's eldest son,
the late Francis
Nkrumah, his mother was a relation of my dad's, and so that relation. And Nkrumah called my dad Komfo, because he said the man was more than a traditional priest, because of the things he knew.
I hear he taught him maths. mathematics.
Yeah, but I mean, naturally
tutoring,
yes, and because the old man was a great mathematician. I think that's how he managed to get into engineering. More fool me. It's only later on in life that I started getting a love for mathematics. He was, and when he was in tech, he worked very hard to build the infrastructure of tech, and he believed in it because he was part of the plan for Nkrumah had for Ghana.
Right.
Nkrumah believed that industrialization was going to be the engine of growth, and the people who would manage the industrial sector were going to be the people trained from KNUST, the engineers, even the agriculturists and all that. So they had that dream, but somewhere along the line, political expediency got rid of it. But that's why I'm here. But I just believe that we had very, very great people who have come before us, and it's about time we started doing something about admiring them and learning from them. And we shouldn't learn about every human being has his faults. The most important thing is that what do they have to offer in terms of vision and all that.
Right. Okay, well, I think it's time for us to go into the next song of your choice, and this is Arabalusi.
Yeah, CK Man. CK Man. I'm being a little parochial here. CK Man is from Elmina. Good friend of mine too. Again, I don't want to say it, but there was a family link there, and he was a very good friend of mine.
Yeah.
And he, as an exponent of high life, I think he was something else.
One of the greatest ambassadors.
Yeah.
You're tuned in to Z 101.9 FM, your lifestyle, leisure, and business radio.
Dara and I mean you dog with war. Yerizi, Yen Bremun Como. I pay a Pimara, Mudopia, you will be at me. How? You them you at the Benya, Shemamba. I pay say, Mudopia, you will be at me. You them you at the Benya, Shemamba. Mudofu, I won't answer ye. Achibi, Yabasanyeshia, Equaripe, say baby mamma, baby, Yabasanyeshia, Equaripe, Dofu, say baby mamma, that baby, Yabasanyeshia.
Z 101.9 FM.
It's your lifestyle, leisure, and business radio.
Modopopa, Nantuye, Nadachibi, Yabasanyeshia, Equaripe, say baby mamma, and baby, Yabasanyeshia, Equaripe, say baby mamma, baby, Yabasanyeshia, Equaripe.
Z 101.9 FM.
Okay, you're listening to I Have a Story to Tell, and this is a special birthday edition. We are interviewing Uncle Fritz. He's on the other side of the panel, and we're finding out about his illustrious career, listening to so much about history, culture, music. We're going to get into politics soon. But just as you were finishing off on your dad,
Yeah.
he set up the Atomic Energy Commission.
Yeah, I mean, he was part and parcel of the the group that put it together. I think Dr. Kwame Nkrumah was looking at means of power to power the industrialization program of Ghana. So he got him to put together the team. And so he made him chairman of the Ghana Atomic Energy Commission. And later on in 1962, when they went, the International Atomic Energy Agency,
IAEA.
he was made the president of the plenary session, which was the first time it had happened.
1962.
1962, yes.
This was a black man standing around a table.
Yeah, in Vienna. Yeah,
Wow.
and he blew the minds of people like, all these Nobel laureates and everything.
Yeah.
And I've got letters from these people who were wondering at the kind of brain this man had.
Black man's mind.
But I'd like to say my father wasn't in isolation. There were also a lot of Ghanaians who were, exemplary in whatever they did. We had Professor Salute, who was, mentored by the old man who was in tech. We had Professor Lindsay, J.U. Lindsay. We had
JVL Phillips.
JVL Phillips is more like a relation, but he was an economist. Yeah. We had quite a few people. President Kufuor's elder brother, Francis Kufuor, was also a very brilliant scientist.
Okay.
We had, in terms of we had people like Professor Abrahams. If we look at culture, we had Philip Beho, we had Kofi Antubam.
Yeah.
These people could stand their own anywhere, and even tower amongst people at the time. So, I must admit that it was a group of people who cared, but somewhere along the line something happened.
We lost it.
Yeah.
I once interviewed the old KB Asante, and
Yes.
he was at Achimota School as a student when your father was doing his degree.
Yeah.
He was the first person to get a degree in mechanical engineering on Ghanaian soil, African soil.
Yeah.
And here Achimota got a 3-day school holiday.
Yeah, they danced around from what I gathered from a book.
Yeah, he even did better than people in London who had all the lab materials and the practicals, and he just blew it. He was very, very intelligent, very intelligent gentleman, and I'd like to think a lot of it rubbed off on you. So let's get into, as we discuss the fact that these men gave so much to the nation as far as nation building, and they were real patriots. You have served in Ghana politics. You were a former Minister of Information. How was your experience when we talk about your delving into politics?
Well, I've always been political to a certain extent. When I was growing up, our house, the residents, the government residents who lived in a government bungalow, as they called them, was next to State House.
Mm-hmm.
And so we used to see all the dignitaries when they were coming to the State House along the road, which is the Castle Road and everything. And I would ask questions of my father and my older cousins and uncles who live with us.
Okay.
And, I sort of got a picture or an idea of who Kwame Nkrumah really was. And I met him because he was not a regular visitor, but a couple of times he'd come to visit the old man, and the old man would say that was Kwame Nkrumah, and they would sit down. They had a good relationship. And then when we went to Tech, and we saw the things that were happening, and then when the university was elevated to university status from the Kumasi College of Technology, Nkrumah came down, and when he brought in the university charter. I carried the charter behind my dad, it was in a box.
There's a picture, not to cut you off, there's a very nice picture of Kwame Nkrumah with your dad and Haile Selassie. Emperor Haile Selassie.
That had nothing to do with Kwame Nkrumah University was one of the places that they brought any head of state. You know, you came to Kumasi, you saw the Asantini, and you came to Tech Campus,
Right.
which was beautiful.
Yeah.
All right, and so people like Haile Selassie came. Anastas Mikoyan, was the vice president of the Soviet Union, came. Archbishop Macarius, who was the president of Cyprus, came. The Queen was there. Duke of Edinburgh was there. You know, anybody who came from outside and they wanted to show off where Ghana was going, they brought him to Tech. They would go to Akosombo. Akosombo hadn't been finished then. They'd come to Legon, and when they came to Kumasi, they would come to Tech. So we saw all those great people. Muhammad Ali was there. Malcolm X was there. Maya Angelou was there. Louis Armstrong was there. Chubby Checker came there. Wow. Millicent Small came there. Yeah. Jackie Edwards came there. Cozy Cole. All these people came to Tech because it was an extension that things were happening all over Ghana.
Right.
So, you know, it was a great place.
The African was starting to determine his own destiny.
That's right. And the African lecturers, a lot of them went on to do their PhDs and their postgraduates, and they came back and all that kind of thing. So it was a good time.
Wow. I know Professor Aloti, the late Professor F.K. Aloti, the great mathematician. He said that your father influenced him to come back to Ghana when he was in Imperial London.
Yeah,
Imperial College
London, yeah.
And he came home and he was picked up at the airport with a pickup and a saloon car, and they packed his bags straight to Kumasi. And, you know, I think this says a lot about your father in being able to influence someone like Professor F.K. Aloti, who would have become the property of a country because of his large brain. And yet he came home.
Yeah. But the old man, I think one of his adages was that you should be the wind beneath people's wings to let them fly and soar. Right. There was no selfishness about him and others. You know, I think that nowadays we're a little bit selfish. We try to prevent people from soaring. We try to pull them down. But in those days, though we had incidents of people who were negative, the positivity was very strong.
Wow.
Yeah, because we knew where we were going.
I see. I remember in 2011, during the State of the Nation address, the late President, His Excellency Professor Atta Mills, called you out and said that your father is the one who showed Kwame Nkrumah that we had oil in the sea. And so when you served President Mills, that was the beginning of your real political career. What was it like serving a man like that?
Well, I must admit that he had a great influence on me. But my political mentor has always been Jerry John Rawlings. And I worked for President Mills, and he had a lot of time for me. There were times I'd be sitting in the chamber, and then he would call and say, "Where are you?" I'll say, "I'm in the chamber." "Are you very busy?" I'll say, "No." Then he'll say, "Come over." And I'll sit down and talk to him. And he also loved Ghana. Yeah. It was a pity that he died at the time that he did, because he also he had plans for Ghana. He had an understanding of the mechanics of running a country. Right. He really wanted to resolve the economic problems that we had. And I know that, you know, amongst my party members, NDC, some of them disparage him for the sentiment that he was a father for all, which is something that I believe in very, very strongly, that there should be no second-class citizens in Ghana because of your political affiliation. I believe that very strongly, and I'll state it here. Sure. That we're all from, we're all Ghanaians, and that we should depoliticize appointments and things like that. That you should work for Ghana, not for your party. Yeah. But these are things that we'll talk about another time. This is another time for it. I try not to talk about these political shenanigans on programs like this.
But when you look back at your time in government, for instance, what do you recall as some of your, what you brought to the table?
Well, I went into politics late. When I went into politics, I think I was 56. And I did tell my constituents that I'd be there for 2 terms, and which is what I did. And so, at the end of my second term, I decided not to stand. I wanted to contribute the knowledge that I had, the experiences that I had. I traveled the world. I had experiences. I was, if I might brag, well-read because I read a lot. And that I would lend something to Parliament and also learn. I learned a hell of a lot in Parliament. The dynamics of this country. I met people from places I didn't imagine, though I traveled the length and breadth of the country. It was a very fascinating experience, and I learned the mind of the Ghanaian, where we were going and where we shouldn't go and all that kind of thing. But the highlight was, as a minister, it was an honor and a privilege to be appointed to the ministry, not as a badge of honor, but that I'd been considered, but you had to do your work. Okay, but I think I enjoyed being the chairman of Defense and Interior, the select committee in Parliament, than anything else, because I was in Parliament. I was not hamstrung by the kind of innuendos and wherefores and whereby of politicking and everything. You did your work. You had to do your work. You were dealing with your colleagues, and you had to make sure that you were doing the right thing. And I enjoyed that. One of the high points was when I was asked to take President Obama around the castle, which was fascinating because I became the point man for Ghana, along with the tour guide, Mr. Blankson, whom I went around with. And I think I made an impact on Obama, which he passed on to Arthur Mills. And President Mills also called me to congratulate me and say, you did very well on our behalf. And I thought that it wasn't the fact that I had taken Obama around, but that it had made an impact on him. Because, I wanted to show the best of Ghana, because that was the way we were trained. Okay, if you saw a Ghanaian athlete at the Olympic Games, he was doing his best. He signified and symbolized the best of Ghana, which we've lost a bit. People represent Ghana and they don't show the essence of the greatness of Ghana. But in those days, we had wonderful people, because I remember in 1966 at the Commonwealth Games in Jamaica, when the Ghanaian boxers won 4 gold medals in boxing, and then 110x4 team with ECUA, the BK Men's, Bukari Bashiru, and I think Okante, won the gold medal in record time. I remember Stan Alute, who was in school with me in Premier College when I was there, won the gold medal in the 220 yards and all that. And it signified how good we were at what we did. We were also very good at table tennis, good at hockey. Our volleyball. Girls played volleyball and netball. And we were heading somewhere. I think we should have even been better than the Cubans by now. But somewhere along the line, we lost it.
It's unfortunate. You're listening to I Have a Story to Tell, and we are live on 101.9 ZFM. 101.9 ZFM. We are interviewing the great Uncle Fritz. Today he's on the other side of the table. My name is Edwin Kwikwando Baffour, and I have the honor of interviewing him today, bringing his story to you. And we are going to listen to another of your favorites. This is also by Baffour, and it's Baffour.
You're tuned in to Z 101.9 FM, your lifestyle, leisure, and business radio.
aboa bi wo ho wo friend efrupompo so didi mi a enkwase adenkotin no yo kuro no dakura ne baby ejamo anya nsafo oka chire efrupompo de efrupompo ibenti na wan ko ti didi mi a enkwase adenkotin na ewu mani sadachi anhwe ni ye ya da sam bebo mani efrupompo gina wodi ore ejamo na yin efrupompo na asimo kechi ejamo de ejamo eyewi asemi ejamo yodo oka chire na ji oka chire iban oka chire aponchi oka chire akoko da mo bo amabo ndezi nyina ohi enwo so ogbo ewan no wasimo kechi ejamo de ejamo eyewi ejamo angari osimu kofie wawura na ọhwẹ wọn no ní bẹẹ fi college náà wà bọ ọmọ ẹnu lẹ́yìn wà yẹ efuru pọnpọn ọdún kan náà wà bọ yẹ efuru pọnpọn ní wọ́n yí ti wọ́n mi ọ̀rẹ́ yẹn náà kwasi yẹn ní wọ̀ efuru pọnpọn kan bá nínú àná ọ̀nà ọ̀dà bọ̀ wà fẹ́ ní yẹ mọ̀rùmí yípa mi ro dókítà wáyé dókítà mi kan náà sẹ̀mí sùn dókítà ọ̀nà òkúrò wọn ọ̀nà ọ̀dà kan fẹ́ dókítà mọ́ ọba. Ọwọ́ dẹ pọ̀npọ̀ ẹnọ̀pọ̀ náà fa pọ̀npọ̀ nkaba pọ̀npọ̀ ní wọn náà nà pàpàpà sí ẹ̀jẹ̀ mọ́ bí sẹ́ pọ̀npọ̀ dẹ wọ́yẹ̀ dẹ́ náà wọ́n pàpàpà sí násì mọ́ kéjì ẹ̀jẹ̀ mọ́ dẹ ẹ̀jẹ̀ mọ́ wọ́n sẹ́mẹ̀ kẹ́yìn náà ọ̀dẹ̀wé nkọ́ mọ́ ẹ̀jẹ̀ kyerẹ́ mi náà ọ̀dẹ̀wé wọ́n sẹ́mẹ̀ kẹ́yìn náà ọ̀dẹ̀wé ẹ̀jẹ̀ mọ́ wọ́n kárí òsì mi kò fìyè dọ́kítà yà yàfẹ́ yẹ dira yà yàfẹ́ náà wọ́n ń sàpọ̀ náà wọ́n wù mọ́ ọ̀dẹ̀wé. Papa na some more kind of baby may add or one day when you're one of when you're nampa, worry count. And see one chin and jibra, one chap, one chibra, one fire, one go, one chap, one go. I broke one. A jam walk way walk, a jam one as some will be so in there. Money on the man, he found a one quick. Na wasu wakache jamwane ejamo wasa meke no the way ejamo no wodi wona ebe wodi na wari ye me wodi na wari yam wodi mende sana wari ya wonara wo wodi na wari ye me sana wari ya wonara wo mai wodi na ri ye me sana ri ya wara wo adi na ri yam eyi mende sana ri ya wara wo adi na ri ye me Sanaria Warao, Aginaria me, Sanaria Warao.
Z 101.9 FM.
Oh, that is the lovely Bob Cole. Edwin there, hear me. I mean, listen to the beautiful sound.
The lyrics and the story itself, the storyline is beautiful. And I think our kids should listen to this because there is a maxim involved. There is common sense involved and everything. It was a great storyteller. And in our storytelling, we have to have the truths, the home truths that are hidden in this. So he was just a fantastic person with a beautiful voice, and he was magnificent.
Yeah, no, this is beautiful music. I mean, sometimes if I look at modern times, a young man like Kofi Kinata, I can see some of this really rubbed off him in the style that he's chosen to tell his stories.
He's very special.
And it comes across. And I think more of our artists should try and emulate the example of the great ones that have come before us.
Yeah.
So that was the lovely Bob Cole, and we are back in the studio. You're listening to I Have a Story to Tell, and we're live on 101.9 ZFM. You can send us messages on 0544 321 019. That's the WhatsApp line. And also 030 395 6641. We're also live on X, ZFM GH, and we're streaming live on YouTube, Z Multimedia. So when I look at your career, I mean, you were an MP. You were an MP for Ablikuma South for 2 terms. And you did quite a lot in Dansoman. Dansoman has a dual carriage street. The high street is a dual carriage. Osu doesn't have a dual carriage street. How did you feel about serving the people of Ablikoma South?
Well, it was not easy. I remember that when, and I was very fortunate.
Go ahead, Fritz. I'm sure you got a lot of that. You were the Choco MP.
Yeah.
Go
That's very true.
Uh-huh.
I was lucky. I had a good mayor.
Okay.
Someone I could relate to, and that's Okovandapo, who's now the substantive
MP.
member of parliament. He was
right.
excellent, and we worked together.
Okay.
And I remember when we were building that Danceman High Street, it was a struggle because they had to sort of put an overlay on while they were constructing. So there was a big rainstorm.
That was a bad road.
Yes. And it flooded houses, and I took the brunt. I remember I was in Geneva for an ITU conference when I heard that we'd had a rainstorm in my constituency, and roofs had blown and people's houses were flooded, especially around the construction site of that road. So I just quickly, cancelled my itinerary in Geneva and came down. And I went from house to house to placate the victims of the natural disaster, and I was insulted. I mean, I had to eat humble pie. People called me all kinds of names, and I pleaded with them. Yeah. Anyway, I must say that about 2 weeks ago, I was somewhere when a young lady came up to me and said, "Oh, this is my name." I said, "Oh, really? You are the lady who, at a certain time, berated me for the for the project." She said, "Oh, yeah, but at the end of it all, it's such a beautiful project, and thank you for it."
It worked out well.
And there's another thing that I'm very proud of. There's a bridge that connects
the Chimu.
Connects Gudgesburg Avenue, the road. All the way to Danceman.
That's right.
In the old days, if you wanted to go to Danceman, you had to go through Latabiokoshi. No, the beach road. The beach road, you couldn't even cross.
Okay.
But the bridge that takes you directly into Danceman. Okay. I remember when I said I'd have it built, somebody told me it wouldn't happen in his lifetime, but it did. And so I'm very proud of that. But it was tough because you're dealing with people who know what they want. And if you don't give them what they want, they'll ditch you. But all in all, I think I left on the right note.
Yeah, no. I think you did a good job there. So what advice would you have for today's politician? Ghana has become very polarized, but what advice would you have for our politicians, when they come to...
You shouldn't really lie to your constituents. Never lie. And if you make promises that you can fulfill.
Okay.
And another thing I want to say is that when we talk about the polarization, it really hurts me. Because at no time in my campaigning did I disparage my opponents. Insults are not good for politics. We are doing it a lot now. We're seeing people come on the air and disparage people and insult them and see all kinds of things. It doesn't help. And bad blood is not a good thing. It's not a good ingredient of proper political practice. So, and I've always believed in peace because as a journalist, I traveled into war zones. I covered the war in Rwanda and I covered the war in Liberia. And I realized how easy it is to ignite civil strife and internecine warfare. So we should be very, very careful about the things that we do. I mean, you meet somebody who is a Ghanaian and you come from maybe the same town, the same village, the same family, and because he belongs to another political party, you disparage him or you hate him and you try to find things that are wrong.
Right.
It's become the norm, but it's sad. It shouldn't be so.
There was a time when the late Jacob Bechibilamte was alive, and you were NDC and he was MPP, but a lot of people don't know that you had a relationship with him. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, Jake was the stepson of my mother's twin sister.
Okay.
And when his mother left. My aunt, brought up Jake. So Jake lived with my. So that Jake was really my cousin. We grew up together. We liked each other immensely, and I miss him. We would sit down and quarrel and argue about our political ideologies and things like that because his father died in detention. So I could understand why he would have pain. But he didn't take it too far because one of his best friends was Nkrumah's son, Professor Francis Nkrumah, and I have a picture which I took of the two of them, together.
Wow.
I've heard this thing, and it's an adage that I always like when we say, hate can't win, and it shouldn't win.
Right. Especially when we're all in one country.
That's right.
Yeah. I mean, if you ask me, I think we should just do a national development plan which is looking at 50 to 100 years.
Yeah.
And get rid of this thing of manifestos and everyone coming in. You come in, you plug in, and you deliver on your 4-year mandate.
Yeah.
And we look at the tracker. If you're mostly green, then you're staying. Orange, we think about it. Red, you're gone. But then we don't have to keep going 2 steps forward, 1 step backwards, and it's a.
We're learning. It's an evolution of national practice.
Wow. Wow. Wonderful. Okay, you're listening to I Have a Story to Tell, and we're interviewing the great one and only Mr. Fritz Baffour. He doesn't like being called honorable, but he did do an honorable service to this nation, and we are celebrating his birthday today, March 11th. And your next track is by Bisakede.
Yeah.
Brother.
Yeah.
Let's listen to it before I ask you why.
Z 101.9 FM.
Brother, many a day, fuck, yeah. My Juma, me a Kumasi Bama, me Jimmy, I no complain, and Grand Suama, me say, baby, Grammy Gonongo, I bet if you wale, me na me bano. Sikasu so gumano, Umi, I draw me wiper, Usha me sport to a family burger, a man of my dream, I'm frame, Mama Minjimani. Ugogo was so afraid me, a man who wants you, a man for me. Brother, Messi, I have boy, dear, what's it? A man winning, Tinton. Yeah, no one's I have vagina. You be sans my vagina. To what the papa to put to manto. True pimpy, now if you got us to talk upon to la tememo. Yeah, papio. And one who doesn't hear me, no man, Bremania. A man of Monsieur, a man for me. Mama Minjimani. Ukoko was one for me. A man of Monsieur, a man for me.
101.9 FM.
No, don't have it. I see bad opa. I'm on board in a damn into Chile. Dakurade Munsabumamia. This thing I must see about it. Both on our passage. I craft on the Western Munsari. Wrong half on the Central. Ain't I my live for a Ganoka. Gana for you, I'm somewhere. What do?
Z 101.9 FM.
Yes, and we are back live on I Have a Story to Tell. This is Z 101.9 FM. You can also send us messages on WhatsApp 0544 321 019 and also call us on 030 395 6641. We're also on X ZFMGH, and we are live streaming on YouTube Z Multimedia. So we are here with Uncle Fritz, and we're getting to know lots about the wonderful gentleman. This is a Ghanaian, thick and thin, in and out. And Uncle Fritz, I mean, you've had a very illustrious career. What's next for you?
Oh, well, today actually is my 73rd birthday, and it fell on the day I was born. I'm a Kobna.
Okay.
I think
Tuesday born.
Tuesday born, and it fell on that day. So
this is really your day.
Yeah, really my day. But and I believe that we have to learn a little bit more about our country. We don't know. Most people don't know enough about their country, so they presume, and there are a lot of misconceptions and misperceptions of our country. And since I've had the experience of going around and learning, I'd like to pass a little bit of that knowledge. And I really plan to mentor and to work towards, bringing some kind of unanimity into our country, where we work together and we do things together and resolve our problems together. And I want us to eschew malice. Malice is a very negative thing and very destructive. So that's where I'm going. I'm writing another book. I wrote a book called After Midnight. I'm writing another one. I haven't put a title to it yet. But there are a lot of things that I learned in my life's journey. And I'm glad God has given me the opportunity to live this long and for me to see. And the mistakes I've made in my life have made me stronger, because I acknowledge those mistakes, and I believe that they should not be repeated. Sure. So it's not a question of regrets, but the fact that if I've done things that are wrong, I should right them. I should do the right thing. And so it's a great, great, great feeling to grow old. It's a crock because I'm not as fast as I used to. Sometimes I need a walking stick. My eyesight is not as good as it should be. Sometimes my memory throws me, bored, but I pray for good health. I pray for in mind, body, and soul. And I pray that I learn and, progress into loving my fellow human beings in mind, body, and soul. So these are the things that I'm looking at. But I really want to mentor. And in mentoring, I'm learning more, because I learn a lot while I'm talking to younger people, because they teach me a lot of things. And what I pray for is the humility to be able to acquire that knowledge. And as I grow older, my belief in God is very, very strong, because I've seen the wonderful things that He's done for me over the years. I've seen the kind of problems He's taken me out of and helped me to steady my ship. So that really is what I'm looking at now. And I wish Ghana well. I love this country so much. Sometimes you get frustrated and you may see things that you don't really believe, because you're frustrated, short-term anger. Sure. But in the long run, I mean, this is a wonderful country with wonderful people, and the great thing about Ghana is the potential that we have.
Sure.
In every aspect of our resource.
Sure. This is a great country. We if you want to understand Ghana, you really have to go outside Ghana to speak to foreigners, to really appreciate who we are. Yeah. Here, I don't think we appreciate who
ourselves
we are.
Enough, yeah.
We don't appreciate those that have come before us and the tall shoulders that we stand on. And when I think of how we're treating our country in certain ways, it's really heartbreaking. I mean, one thing I have to use this platform to speak about is this disaster of Galamsey, this illegal mining that's just destroying the forest. What's your opinion on that?
Oh, we really have to nip it in the bud. And it's a question of looking at what has happened before. Galamsey is not new to modern society. You know that in America we had, when James Jeffries discovered gold in California and started the California Gold Rush, and that brought about what we see in cowboy films, bank robbers and things like that. We can learn And it's a question of putting our minds together and saying that we're going to solve this problem. And that brings me to another thing. I don't think that we're treating our traditional governance system well. We need to treat our chiefs better.
Yeah.
We need to bring them on board fully.
Right.
We've got to see how we can finance them and resource them and help them manage the traditional governance system in this country, which is intrinsically linked to ours. And then we also need, and I think that we've now got an opportunity with the Constitutional Review Commission to look at the we have to look at decentralization properly. Okay. I don't think Ghana is properly decentralized. But that is another narrative to discuss. But these are things that we've got to put into our minds to think about. That how do we get the common man to participate in his future, his or her future? Yeah.
Wow. Interesting. We're going to listen to one more song, but before we go, we're going to have you sing, because you've got a wonderful voice. If people don't know that, and I want you to specifically sing the song of Louis Armstrong's, because if someone closes their eyes and they're in the room, they might think that he's really there. And I don't know why didn't you come out to be a musician? I know your sisters play music, play piano. Your brother is a musician. What happened to you?
Well, you know, my late elder brother Jerry was a great musician, and I realized I couldn't match him, so I didn't really attempt to.
I see.
But when I went to England, my allowances used to come late, so I started singing in pubs with a friend called Mark Zuckman. What was the name? His name is Zuckman.
Okay.
And we played in a band. He accompanied me with the guitar, so we had a songbook. And I realized people used to clap and cheer. Then I realized that I had a voice.
Charlie.
So I made quite a lot of money to look after myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You did a lot of stand-up comedy too.
Yeah.
I remember I was in Nigeria once, and someone said that they knew you from Ikeja Sheraton.
Yeah.
You used to do stand-up comedy.
Yeah, but at the Sheraton, I was a director. I was on the board, but I got that job because I did comedy there, and the owner realized that. He said, "Oh, you're not really a comedian, because talking to you and learning from you and everything means that you've had some kind of education." And so he put me in charge of their events, and they had a club there, and I was the director of the club, and I spent a year with him. So it's you know, fine. It's nice to have so many things that you can do.
Yeah. Okay, so let's listen to this next selection of yours, and this is Harmonious Choral, Ghana, and this is Your Grace and Mercy.
Yes.
So this is a special selection by Uncle Fritz.
Yes.
And let's get into it. Harmonious
You're tuned in to Zed 101.9 FM. Your lifestyle, leisure, and business radio.
You never gave the promise that the journey
It's your lifestyle, leisure, and business radio.
Yes, and you're listening to I Have a Story to Tell with Fritz Baffour. Today is his birthday edition, and we're almost about wrapping up the show. This was a beautiful choral, but before we go, I said that I want the audience to listen to your voice, and so we're going to have the music from Louis Armstrong, and I've seen you perform this before at the Ghana Club. But I mean, you've got a hidden talent, and I think that on your birthday, you can let it shine. So, ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Uncle Fritz, and this is a very famous song by a man who came to Ghana, attracted by the gravitas of Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, a man who worked with Uncle Fritz's father very well. And now we have the man himself celebrating his 73rd birthday on the day he was born. Kwabena, over to you.
I see trees of green. I see them.
You're tuned in to Z 101.9 FM. Your lifestyle, leisure, and business radio.
I see.
Are you ready? I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you. And I says to myself, what a wonderful world. Thank you very much.
Wow. Yes.
Thank you very much.
To you indeed. And we have some messages on WhatsApp. It says, good morning, Zed. This is a very educative show worthy of commendation. The PWC guy is a great teacher. Ghana needs such conversations. Kudos again, Zed. Nana Ohene Dome. And hi, Zed. Great listening to the legendary Fritz Baffour. I wish him a very happy 73rd birthday. By the way, if I may ask, what is the meaning of the first song played by Lord Bob Cole, Abankaba, from Yao Frimpong in Sawam? Thank you, Yao Frimpong, for listening to us. And Uncle Fritz, he asked a question. What is the meaning of the first song played?
You know, this guy is walking with a handcuff around him, followed by a policeman, and he meets a friend, and the friend says, is everything okay? And he's saying to him, look, here I am with a handcuffed hand, followed by a policeman, and you're asking me if everything is all right. Can't you see for yourself that I'm in trouble? So basically, it's the reason is to say that, you know, sometimes you've got to be, you know, prescient in whatever you do.
Okay, so we have a surprise for Uncle Fritz, actually. I don't think you think this would just be your birthday, just for show. And so this is from the whole family at ZFM 101.9 FM. And we invite all your listeners to enjoy as we celebrate your wonderful 73rd birthday. And let's see what this surprise is. Oh, wow. He can't see yet, but I can. Yes. and that is a lovely cake.
Well, thank you very much.
Oh, wow. This is a beautiful cake.
Yes, it is.
And it says, "Happy birthday, Uncle Fritz." Happy birthday to you indeed. I think that we all celebrate you. You are a wonderful Ghanaian, a politician who has shown that with the right temperament, politicians can be useful to society. And I wish you the best of luck, good health. And we want to see more from Uncle Fritz. We want to see you more in the movies. You've acted Mr. President before. We want to hear more music from you and your shows, your vibes on history and culture. But most of all, we thank the Almighty for this wonderful gift to celebrate your 73rd birthday right here in the studios of 101.9 ZFM. And we invite all our listeners to celebrate with us, and we thank the Almighty for your life.
I want to thank the management of ZFM for giving me the opportunity to have this program. I have a story to tell. It's a wonderful journey that is not going to end now. I'd like to thank my younger brother, Nana Safo Kantanka, who is the chairman of the general manager, Miss Medicare, if I'm right, and my producer, Pascal Sego, and Emmanuel, my technical man, whom I'm going to strangle because because a couple of faux pas, but I think that we will we'll sort of redress that another time.
All right, wonderful. So we'll listen to "Happy Birthday" by Stevie Wonder, and it's very much in order because this is a special day, and I think we're going to let our GM have a word, because we're in the wonderful studios of 101.9 ZFM. And sir, if you kindly give us a few words.
All right.
Madam, it is.
Yes. Good evening, our dear listeners. So for me, I call him my godfather. So I sit here today and I stand on behalf of the executive chair and on behalf of Z management as well as all staff to wish him a happy birthday. We wish him long life, full of joy, God's blessings, and many beautiful things that, beyond imagination is what we wish for him. Uncle Fritz has been one of the legends that is part of the Z family, and we say that he has shown some level of sacrifices. He has taught us a lot of things. He has shared many things with us. And he has made some significant changes or inputs in the operations of Z. And we want to sit here this evening and say thank you so much, Godfather. He is my godfather, not about others, but for so many things. And I'll also say this on a personal note, that he's one of the persons that encouraged me to hold on to the mantle of being a general manager of Z Motor. And I would say thank you so much, Uncle Fritz, for the encouragement and for the support. I wouldn't have asked it from anyone else, but for the Godfather to be part of the few to encourage me as general manager of Z, I would say thank you so much. Thank you so much. And we pray that long life is with you, and we'll see many more beautiful years and your impact to Z as well. God bless you, Uncle Fritz.
Thank you very much. I'm very honored.
Thank you. And this is the one and only Stevie Wonder with a happy birthday as we celebrate a great legend. You've been listening to I Have a Story to Tell. We've been interviewing Uncle Fritz Baffour on his 73rd birthday. Happy birthday to you.
genocide to show just how much we love you. And I'm sure you agree. It was perfectly on the half of our party. But then you came to me. Happy birthday to yourself. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Never understood.
It's your lifestyle, leisure, and business radio.
Someone who stands for good could not have a day that would be set aside for the recognition. 'Cause it should never be just because some cannot see. The dream is lazy that they should make it become an illusion. We honor everything that this first time will bring. In our heart we sing, congratulations, Martin Luther King. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday.
101.9 FM.
There should be a holiday where peace is celebrated.
It's your lifestyle, leisure, and business radio.
Tell me something to do. Some people like me and you who know the way to truth.